You must be excited for Bronny visiting Ohio State because I see you got on a Ohio State hoodie. Is that an Ohio State hoodie? Don't tell me you that excited. What do it say, man? Please don't tell me it say Ohio State.
You know damn well it says Old Navy, bro. Chill.
Okay,
like, you know that, bro.
okay. Now, Bronny visiting Ohio State this weekend for the Notre Dame game. It's going to be a crazy atmosphere. Do you want to know something about me, Juice, that many people don't know?
So
I'm not an Ohio State fan, but I understand how important that school is. It's a beautiful campus, lots of things to do in the city of Columbus, the best city in Ohio, Juice. If you don't want to visit Cleveland, meet me in Columbus. You'll have a good time. And I'm pretty sure Bronny is going to have a hell of a time in Columbus this weekend, September 3rd, I believe, for the Ohio State Notre Dame game. Now, this is interesting because I do feel like Ohio State has a real chance to land Bronny James. They have a real chance. Okay. Now, you know how I feel. I always thought that we should have put Duquesne in the mix or Duquesne or however you pronounce it. I felt like we should have thrown him in the mix because Keith Dambrot, Brown's old coach, and one of Brown's good friends, coach at Duquesne or Duquesne. I don't know how to pronounce it. But Ohio State is a real player in this, Juice. What do you think about this?
I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think Ohio State is definitely one of the more schools that actually has a chance of getting, Bronny, just because, like everything you just said, this is where Bronny, LeBron, Bryce, the whole James family, this is where they really, set the foundation of the whole James family. And like you said, LeBron James said it himself that if he had to choose any school, he would go to Ohio State. And Bronny, he wants to play with LeBron. He wants to follow in those same footsteps. So I think Ohio State definitely has like a huge chance in my personal opinion. I just want to know why don't you personally like Ohio State?
Ohio State fans are annoying. But I feel like any state that you live in where they have a school as big as Ohio State and a school with so much good history as Ohio State, some of the fans are just gonna get in your damn nerves. It's just the way it is. You probably feel the same way about the Dallas Cowboys, a professional team in Dallas, because you probably hear so much about them every year. You just get tired of it. Okay. Now, me myself personally, I like watching Ohio State. That don't mean I gotta like them. I like to just watch them. They got some good football players. They get the top recruits in there. But I always found it interesting that their recruiting for basketball could not match up with their recruiting for football. Now, they have had some good basketball classes in the past.
The last cold dude I remember is D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah, they had Jared Sullinger, but he was from Columbus, so that was a given.
That's a long time ago. Like, who else has even been there?
They had Malachi Branham last year, who went to San Antonio Spurs. They had Greg Oden. They get players,
but
I
don't
feel like
them big time players. You're right.
Yeah, you're not gonna see It's rare to see a McDonald's All-American that's committed to Ohio State. Let's talk. If you look on Rivals and you look down the list of the top 25 players, you rarely see a player committed to Ohio State. And I always found that weird because I do feel like they have all the facilities and everything that a player would need. Okay, you go to Columbus, they got good food, it's good vibes. It's a lot of things to do in Columbus. I'm gonna leave it at that. Okay.
I mean, so far in that 23 class, only the number 51st player, Devin Royal, he's committed there. George Washington III, he's committed there, and then Scotty Middleton. Those are only 3 players so far that's committed to Ohio State. And like you just said, I didn't realize that there's really not unless if we're just forgetting, I don't remember a big time player going to Ohio State that's made it to the league. So Bronny wants to make it to the league. So do you think if he does go to Ohio State, it's gonna like maybe hinder his chances of making it to the league or even playing in the NCAA tournament? Like, do they even make sense in the NCAA tournament? I don't really.
Ohio State makes the NCAA tournament. They lost to a smaller school. I believe it was the year before last. Last year, they did make the NCAA tournament last year because Malachi Branham had a couple of good games. So they make the NCAA tournament. And the Big Ten and the SEC are 2 of my favorite basketball conferences just to watch, on a week-to-week basis. If I'm tuning into a college basketball game, the Big Ten is a good conference. So he's going to be on that stage on a game-to-game basis to showcase his skills. I think that one thing we should do, does he follow Devin Royal or George Washington on Instagram? If we're going to do this, Let's really dissect it. Does he follow Devin Royal or George Washington on Instagram?
Hey, man,
Maybe that's something that we can look into. I'm not trying to be one of those people that dissect things like that, but I feel like that is important if we think that he has a chance of going to Ohio State. Because when you talk about Duke, we know he has relationships with players that go to Duke. If we talk about Kentucky, we know he has relationships with players that go to Kentucky. Now, Ohio State, you just named 2 players that's committed there. Does he have a relationship with these players? Because that's going to be a key factor.
And then, too, I mean, this is the first visit that he's taking, too, right?
Is this an official visit?
That's the thing. It's honestly kind of like a rumor. Like, it's not set in stone, but like everybody's talking about it that he's going to Ohio State this weekend to watch that game or for an unofficial visit or whatever you want to call it. But this is like the first time I feel like we've actively heard, oh, Bronny's going to visit a school, you know, which I feel like does make sense because a player of that caliber, you know, Mikey, DJ, if you hear about them taking a visit to a school, they're not going to waste their time, bro. Like, you know that. They're not going to waste their time. So that's why I personally feel like Ohio State, they have a legit chance.
Now, when you talk about players wasting their time, players do waste their time. But a player like Bronny James is not going to waste his time. Now, when I say waste time, yeah, LeBron too. They're not about to waste their time traveling from California to Ohio, even though they can fly private. And it's a little bit more convenient for them to waste time if they wanted to. But I remember I was talking to a player, and I believe he told me they get 4 or 5 official visits. I can't remember which one it was.
5 official visits.
And he told me, man, I know what school I'm going to, but I'm about to milk every damn one of these visits and visit every one of these damn schools and have a good time. He said, I already know where I'm going, but I'm about to visit every one of these schools. But a player in Bronny's situation, he don't got time to do that. He's not about to do that. He's not about to visit all these different universities and waste time like that. Okay, this it's getting the crunch time. Okay, it's getting to real crunch time. I'm ready to see some damn check marks on his rivals profile and his 24/7 profile of the schools that are really in the mix. I'm ready to see an official top 5 list.
And I think another thing we have to also mention too, you know, a lot of people, like, it's weird because at first the schools that was always associated with Bronny was like Duke, you know, those Kentuckys, you know, UCLA's. I don't think people realize, like, as it gets closer to the end of their senior years, all these schools are getting players signed to their program. There's no way Bronny's going to Duke no more. They have like 5 players within the top 50 that's going.
You must have been listening. You must have been listening to me. You taking my lingo, man.
What you mean?
I said that he ain't no Duke not waiting on them. Ain't no room.
I don't remember you saying that. I don't remember you saying that. But anyway, same schools like Kentucky and all them big schools. Like, I think the only realistic schools he's going to be going to are those, like, you know, Ohio States or the USCs. And we can make another video, a more in-depth video of, like, Oregon, you know, but they also have top players that's going to their school too. But then again, I mean, they have Kwame Evans and Mookie Cook who don't play the same position. So I just want to know if Bronny wants to, like, maybe have his own team, or does he care about coming off the bench, all that, you know? So I don't know. Ohio State, I think they definitely have a shot for sure.
I don't think he would want to have his own team in college. I mean, that's pretty hard to do. You don't want to do that. You said, I feel like if you set yourself up for failure if you do that.
Yeah, and I made a video about Mikey and Bronny potentially teaming up too. You know, like, people think I'm joking, but I think that's something that can actually happen because
that's just y'all trying to get views and shit, man. That's why I said with y'all YouTube.
Bro,
y'all YouTube motherfuckers is funny, man.
Bro, USC, like, USC is
he's not going to USC. Mikey going to Kansas, man.
He told you that?
Don't worry about it. I got a gut feeling he's going to Kansas. He ain't tell me that, but I got a gut feeling he's going to Kansas.
No, like I said, I'm not saying that Bronny is going to US. I'm just saying, like, if you connect the dots, Mikey has took a visit to USC. He lives in He lives in California. He likes the school. Bronny, same thing. He lives there. That's one of his schools that's also in the contention in the mix. I was checking. I don't think they have a single player that's committed in that 23 class. So, and neither of them have committed to a school yet. So I'm just saying, if you connect the dots, it kind of makes sense. That's all I'm saying. Same thing with UCLA, but